Welcome to Dad Space, a podcast for dads by dads. Today we have Michael Eback is on. Michael is a new dad. Congrats, Mike. Mike is here to talk about his new dad journey with you and with me here on Dad Space. And Michael is a DJ. Well, drop it like it's hot or whatever. DJs are in the house. What, and all that stuff. Anyways, I digress. Michael is here. DJ, hit the music. Oh, it's already started. Okay, anyways, Mike's here. Dad Space. So happy to have Michael with us today on Dad Space. I love talking to new dads, the joy, the excitement. Michael's got stuff figured out, and he's a great guest. So I hope you enjoy our conversation today with Michael Eback. Michael shares what it's like to be a new dad and all the joys and all the stuff. And yeah, it's great to have him on the podcast. So everyone here, please enjoy Michael Eback on Dad Space. Make sure you go ahead and like, follow, share, and do all the things so that you know a new episode is coming right here on Dad Space. Michael, take it away, DJ. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dad Space. We have a dad. Imagine that on Dad Space. Michael Eback is here. Mike is, well, he has an amazing job that I'm quite enthralled with. Mike, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing pretty great. I'm doing well. How about you, Dave? How are you doing?
Well, you know what? I don't usually get asked that by guests, but I'm good. Thanks for asking. That's nice of you.
Of course.
So if you can't tell from Michael already, you can. This gentleman is a pro. This guy, I saw a video of you at a wedding, opening a wedding up and bringing the bride and groom in, and then a second one where they were serving the meal to the bride and groom, and two guys are dancing around the room and you're singing. It's like you bring the party, Michael. You are a DJ.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm a DJ for Harmon Entertainment in North Dakota here. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that you saw the videos. I think those might be from my very first wedding a few years ago, actually, if they're the ones I'm thinking of. Yeah. So if you were impressed then, Dave, you should see.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay. So I have a challenge for you during our interview. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I told you I have a curveball.
Yes.
I want to see how many musical references we can cram into a podcast episode while we talk about our topic.
Okay.
Okay. It can be a song title, a line from a song, anything to do with music. We're going to try to sneak these in. Okay. So I'll start off just to kind of get grease the wheels a little. All right.
Okay.
You're the last interview for me today. And you know what they say about that, right? You always save the
best for last.
So you, Michael, are simply the best. Better than all the rest.
Oh, very good.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to try this. And it's either going to get super annoying or it's going to be fun. One of the, I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to pull from your musical brain, all right? Because there's got to be songs. There's got to be stuff. You got to think quick on your feet. You're at a wedding, right? Your car breaks down on the way. You got to make things happen. So
that's right.
Right? So you're used to this.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know what? Let's get it started, Dave.
Let's get it started. All right. I'm completely ready here to pump up the jam. I'm ready to drop it like it's hot. Let's go. Okay. You ready?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Here we go. So we're talking all things Dad Space here on Dad Space. You are a new dad.
Yes.
Tell me about your dad journey. Let's get this. What's going on?
Oh man. So I have a 6-month-old daughter, Daisy, who is the love of my life, aside from my wife as well. But yeah, just being a dad has been incredible. You know, these one thing I heard that stands true, at least in my experience, is the days are long, but the years go fast. And that definitely feels the case sometimes, where it's just like, wow, she's sitting up now, she's doing all that. It was interesting as well, leading up to the birth of my daughter while my wife was pregnant, there was some fears and concerns and different things like that going into it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have a consistent father figure growing up, so it was a little bit of a different field for me as well. And um, so I had a wedding New Year's Eve. I was out about 45 minutes out of town, and I get home at like 2 a.m. I get home, and I kind of wind down a little bit, get to sleep. 4 a.m. my wife starts going into labor. So I am happy she waited for me to get home. Maybe waiting a little longer would have been nice.
Yeah.
But we my father-in-law came by to pick up our dog, and we packed, grabbed our hospital bag. We went to the hospital, and they were about to send us home, but they were like, well, let's wait a little bit because it's kind of on the fence right now. And about an hour went by, and they were like, you know what? We got a room ready for you. Let's go through with this. And so we went in, and I had a realization there where I went, I'm not going to be able to sleep for quite a while now.
That was it, right?
That was it.
That was the moment, right? Oh, wow.
But yeah, I ended up, there was a Back to the Future marathon on the TV, and so I finally got to catch up on that, and just kind of hung out in the hospital, and then the moment of truth came, and it was time to go. And I remember during the birth, I out loud was like, wow, because I just watching that was unbelievable. And my wife still makes fun of me to this day because I announced that it was a girl, but I wanted to be sure. And so when they were like, all right, here you go, Dad, and I was like, it's a girl?
Question mark.
Yeah. And I was right, but she still teases me about that.
Oh, gee. So were there other new dads or new to be dads in and around the hospital with you that night? Do you remember?
Not that I saw, really. Okay. There wasn't a lot of people there. Okay. It was New Year's Day. And yeah, we just spent most of the time in the delivery room. They had a really nice room at the hospital we were in. It had like a fireplace and a big TV, and my buddy brought my PlayStation so we could hook up Netflix, and she and I could watch some TV series or something while we're waiting around. Yeah, because we were in the hospital, I think, for 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So it was definitely it was an interesting experience. It's kind of a blur a little bit, just not a ton of sleep, a lot of excitement, and then we took her home. But I just remember crying. I cried first, because I wanted a girl and my wife wanted a boy, so I got to win one. Yeah. But
that was good.
But also, like, all the fears and doubts I had just poof. Like, I completely forgot about all of them the second that, I held her, and it just felt, pretty natural. Usually when friends would hand me their babies or family members, it was always kind of like awkward, and I wasn't entirely sure, but it just felt, right to hold her. And like, I know during our last conversation, you said it's like an invisible switch that you didn't know was there. And it's kind of weird, but that's
right.
The case.
Yeah. You didn't even know that you were capable of doing what you're now doing, right. And how unprepared you feel in that moment where you're like, you walk in the hospital one way, you're going to leave the hospital a different way. And now my whole life is different. I can't be selfish to the extent that I used to be. I have to always now think of my spouse, my wife, and my new child, right? It's the three of us now, and it's just that weird feeling of it's we just can't pick up and go and do what we want whenever we want. We got to now think, right?
Do we have a babysitter? Yeah, absolutely. I know one of the things that kind of a stereotype I'd always heard excuse me,
Yeah.
a stereotype I'd always heard that um, I feel like I maybe misunderstood was when people were saying, once the baby comes, you don't have any time to hang out with your friends or do all that. And I mean, we still find the time to spend time with people, and of course, they always want to see Daisy, so it's easy to invite people over. But um, I think maybe I understood it differently once Daisy was born, because it wasn't necessarily that I didn't have the time. It was more so that I wanted to sit and stay at home and play with my daughter rather than go out and do those things.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, it's like, oh, I could, and Ashley would be more than happy to watch Daisy for a couple hours. But I was like, she just learned how to stick her tongue out at me, and I kind of want to sit and watch her do that for the next few hours.
Let's just see the tongue again. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun being a parent and watching her grow.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And it just, again, it touches something different in you that you never really thought you could access. I love that. I love that part of it, about being a dad. So what have you learned from day one to today that surprises you about family or about being a dad or your daughter? Anything really like, wow, I didn't know this would happen?
Gosh, probably quite a bit. One that it still surprises me is how tough babies are. Because she's learning to sit up now, so she'll tip over every once in a while. And of course, I'm always hands at the ready, wanting to catch her. But if she kind of falls back, and then she'll smile at me, and she's totally fine. And I'm like, you're such a little thing. I would assume that you're just getting hurt all the time, but she's just smiles and is so happy. So that while babies are fragile, they're also very, very strong.
Yeah.
But I've also found that in being a dad, it's such a fulfilling thing to be. There's a lot of things that I would describe as like, or that I would say is a part of who I am. An entertainer, a friend, a son, and all these other things. But something about being a dad is like a constant sense of fulfillment. It adds a layer to absolutely everything I do, of like, I'm not just doing it for me anymore. Yeah. And like you said, that you can't really be as selfish, but it's almost, like I said, fulfilling in a way to not be as selfish, to know that the way you carry yourself and the things you do impact this other life now pretty greatly.
Yeah.
And that has been a pretty wonderful experience to just always have that sense of fulfillment with me. I also, how funny I thought I was before being a dad is now increased, because it's very easy to make my baby laugh and smile. And so that's inflated my ego a little bit, for sure.
I love it. Do you know how hilarious I am?
Yes.
I make my little girl stick her tongue out anytime I want.
Yep. So I'm excited for when she's a little older and she'll really laugh at the silly things I say, so that when my wife is like, Michael, I'm like, she thinks I'm funny. So now it's 2 against 1.
Hilarious. So I love it. I think one thing I learned too when my kids were little was they'd be running around the yard or something, they trip and fall. And I remember somebody saying to me, don't jump up and rush to them. Just take a second. And they would fall down, and they'd be like, not like seriously hurt themselves, but just fall down. And they look at me like, or look at my wife like, did that hurt? And if we got up and went, oh my gosh, they would start crying, just like, oh my God. Right. But if you just like, no, you're good, you're fine. And they'd be looking at you like, oh, that didn't hurt. That wasn't me falling down. That was okay. Like, I'm okay. You're like, yeah, you're good. Keep going. They're like, okay. Right. Yeah. And I saw a video clip on TikTok of a dad holding his little daughter, and he comes around the corner and there's the wall there. And the dad hits his hand on the wall and then looks at his daughter and goes, oh, and she just starts to cry, right?
Oh,
Like she didn't hit the wall. He hit the wall with his hand, but because he responded to her in that way, she just started bawling, and he starts
oh.
laughing because there's nothing going on here. But right within that moment, his daughter was just like, "Daddy, why are you crying? What's wrong? What happened?" Right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, hmm. So that was one of the lessons I learned right away. Don't jump up right away. Don't run to them. If it's not super serious, just let them kind of just figure out that
Yeah.
that didn't really hurt as bad as it looked like it did.
Right.
You know.
That's very good advice.
Hmm. So yeah, because otherwise every single time they would fall, they would just start bawling, and you're
Right.
like, oh gosh, that was really not that serious. But
Right.
so that was one of the things somebody taught me when I was a young dad, and I loved that. I loved
Yeah.
it a lot. So that really worked for me. Um, yeah. Anyways, so
Yeah.
tell me a little bit then about who inspires you as a dad. We had talked earlier that you grew up in a home with a very strong single mom as
Mm.
as your parent. Tell me today, who do you look to? Who inspires you? Um, and kind of helps you. Who do you pattern yourself out as a dad?
Yeah. I'd say there's two people that come to mind right away would be my father-in-law, Paul. He's just an incredible guy. Paul, um, when he and his wife got married, she had three kids from a previous marriage. And he immediately kind of took up the mantle and
Nice.
was just as much a father to them as his biological kids down the road, which I think is so honorable. Um, and yeah, I mean, to this day, he's the one who we rented a trailer, a vehicle, auto transport from U-Haul to get my car that was stranded out an hour away. And he's the one who we used his truck, and he and I went down to get it and took time off from his weekend to go and get my car with me.
Yeah, nice.
So just a great guy and really does a lot. And the other one I think would be my grandpa, my mom's dad, who just I mean, I suppose out of anyone in my life, he would be the most consistent father figure. We lived about 2.5 hours away, so we didn't get to be there in person all the time. But I'd say if anybody throughout my life was one, at least consistently, it would be him. Um, just different things that, he taught me how to shoot a gun. We'd go out
Yeah.
and how to ride the four-wheeler, and we just have a lot of great conversations. And I would see how hard he worked
Hmm.
and how much time he would spend. And a lot of that to this day is still things I look to when I'm making decisions as a father and as a husband. Like how, like, just working hard and doing what you can to help provide in the family.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
my mom and oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, it's fine.
Oh,
It's your mom. Yeah.
when my mom and her two sisters were little as well, my grandpa would come home from work, and if my grandma needed a break, he would say, "All right, go out for a little bit, drive around, or go hang out with some friends. I'll take care of the kids for a while." And that to me too is just because it goes so quick, and it can get so overwhelming and kind of chaotic sometimes um, that sometimes I think to myself, there are days where it is hard to come home from work and immediately go to dad duty and just
Yeah.
take over from there, because and to know that he would do that. And yeah, it's just always been somebody I really looked up to,
Yeah, and that's a
because
different generation too, right?
yeah.
That's not like you that almost feels like it should be a common thing today to be an active dad, but
Right.
back in other generations, maybe not so much, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, and like I've heard stories and everything around, and his siblings and their kids and stuff like that. But yeah, just my grandpa's always. um and there was also another part of my grandpa, just I think as a person, or as a man in general, that is one of the most touching things to me is, so my grandpa, they're kind of small rural towns, definitely some like prejudice and different things going on in those areas,
Mhm.
especially back in the day. But my biological dad is half black.
Yeah.
And so when, it was a little touchy in the beginning there, before I was born, just because of preconceived prejudice that
Yeah.
they had grown up around and stuff. But the moment I was born, it was my, it like flipped a switch in my grandpa to put all that aside and to be a lot more welcoming. And, um, I've talked about my experiences with different people before, and one of the things I always say is, my family, small town North Dakota, have never treated me like I'm different ever once,
Hmm.
and so also to me, from my grandpa's sense, I'm like, to put that aside and just better yourself for me. I mean, personally, is such a huge thing, um, and just yeah, and so that's another thing I kind of look to as well for inspiration on just trying to better myself and be more open minded, let less things bother me, and try to carry on that way.
Geez. Mike, how old are you?
26.
Okay, so when I was 26, I would never have been on a podcast talking about my dad experience because there was no podcast when I was 26. So I'm feeling really old right now. But as well, like you're coming with such knowledge and heart already as a dad. Like your future as a dad is so bright. If you
Thank you.
stay on this path and just love and cherish your family, be there as much as you can, but as well find some time for yourself, I think is the side. I think we do need a little bit selfish, even though we mentioned at the beginning, you do need to
Yeah.
carve out some time, pull out pull out the video game system and throw on a
Yeah.
game. You need
Oh yeah.
you and as well as your spouse, your partner as well needs that time. Like you mentioned, go grab the key, get out of here. I got this. Go take some time for yourself. Go to the restaurant, grab an ice cream cone and just sit there. You know,
Yeah.
don't go have some time for yourself. And I think that was another lesson I learned early in my relationship with my kids and with my wife is that we do need that time. And
Yeah.
don't feel bad when you're not at home with your daughter, when you're with your wife and you need that moment to yourself because you'll come back filled up and ready to jump back in instead of running on empty all the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a little tough sometimes. I try to keep it in mind. It's one of those things. It's really a learning experience to just try to keep the good habits going. And there are times where both my wife and I are overwhelmed, and so neither of us are really taking the time. But yeah, we always try to give each other a bit of a break.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Hmm.
so we're gonna switch gears. We haven't done much with the music stuff yet. So here we go.
Oh yes,
I
yes.
need you to tell me because you play music all the time, and we did this in our pre-interview, and it was pretty interesting. But let's hear some. Will come to mind some dad songs that for you mean something different right now. So, like for me, example, Luke Combs has a song about his dad. I'm forgetting the title off the top of my head, but it's all about his dad going away, right?
Oh sure.
And I'm like, oh gosh, because at the end of the song, it's all about his dad passing away and the fact that how am I going to live without you, dad? I'm like, come on, man, that
Hmm.
don't play that song, right?
Yeah.
There's so and like the Living Years by Mike and the Mechanics. That's an old one from my day. So there's all these songs that kind of celebrate dad or sing about dad, mention dad. In all the songs that you play professionally of what you do, are there certain songs at weddings and stuff? Daddy daughter dances? Is there some
Yeah.
things that are really popular? Tell us about those.
Yes. My Little Girl by Tim McGraw I hear just about every weekend for a father
Okay.
daughter
All
dance,
right.
and is just brutal.
As a dad, right?
As
You're
a
like,
dad, I'm like, I
no,
don't
I can't
want
play
to.
this.
Yeah.
No.
Um, that Cinderella. Who is that by? I am totally blanking
I know, right?
on. Um, but that's another popular one. I'm sure someone listening will know what
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
song I'm
They'll
talking
fill in the
about.
gaps, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Butterfly Kisses, I think by Bob
Oh, Bob
Carlyle.
Carlisle.
That's the
Yeah. There you go.
great song. Oh man,
Mhm.
it's tough. And one thing that we do, and it happens more often than people. Well, yeah, more often than I'd like to admit, I suppose. While I'm setting up my equipment, once I get the sound going first, so that I can run through all the important songs, make sure there's no skips or anything
Yeah.
like that while I'm setting up the rest. And every time we go through, once it hits the father daughter stuff, and that's what I'm listening to, and I'm the only person in the room, I
Oh
definitely
no.
get choked up, and I'm like, like every time.
Mike's in the corner in a little ball,
Yeah,
hugging a pillow or
just
something.
waiting for
Oh
those 4 minutes to
gosh.
end.
One day I'll have to dance to this song, and oh no. Yeah. Oh
Yeah, I
gosh.
I had a conversation last weekend. Is now too when I talk to fathers of brides and grooms, we'll talk about it every once in a while, like what's it like, or I'm sure you're never ready for whatever, and I'll talk about Daisy because I can't help but bring her up in every conversation I'm a part of, and
Yeah.
and just this last weekend, they were saying like, "Oh, it's going to happen before you know it. It's you'll be in this position." And I was like, "I cannot think of that. I put so much effort into blocking out the thought of Daisy being old enough to marry.
I know, right?
I'm like, I don't want to think about it at all.
No.
She's not even a year old, so it's
You
like
can't watch
so far
Father of the
from my brain.
Bride. That's a movie you can't watch with where the guy comes home to meet the daughter and all that, the weddings. Yeah. Father
Oh,
of the Bride, I can't do any of that stuff. That's just
yeah.
the one thing I heard was Katy Perry had a daughter. Her name is Daisy.
I didn't
And
know that.
yeah, and she got a gift from Luke Bryan. He bought Daisy a Daisy pellet gun, which is quite funny because Katy Perry is like, "What the heck am I going to do with this?
Yeah, that's
You're
very
giving my
funny.
newborn a firearm?" I'm like,
Yeah,
so I knew you mentioned about learning how to shoot. I don't know if that's going to be in Daisy's future, but she has her own gun line, so
that's true.
that's
That's
quite
true.
interesting, right? So,
Yeah.
wow. So
Yeah.
in that point, you could hit me with my best shot. That'd be really good. That's good. Hit me with,
That
yeah.
is good. Hit me with my best shot.
I love having, there you go,
Absolutely.
right? Anyways, so
Yeah.
that's really cool. Before we go off today, Mike, tell me a little bit about what you're looking forward to in the next coming years as you look at your daughter. What's exciting for you? Is it school? Is it learning how to read? All that stuff. Like, what are you excited about?
Just watching her become a person, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Every time a little bit more personality comes out, it's just so exciting to see, watching her learn her ABCs and all that kind of stuff. It just the way she absorbs information is so cool. And one thing I'm very excited about, because I've always been really into video games, is being able to share some of those experiences with her, with that and just different interests and things I
Yeah.
have. Maybe as she grows older, she'll grow out of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. But
Right now, yeah.
right now, she, and because every time I play video games now, sometimes I'll sit her on my lap and we'll play something. But she reaches for that controller. And my wife has a controller that she doesn't really use anymore. So and it's more colorful. So we let Daisy play with it, but she only wants the one that's currently on or that I'm using. And so
Hmm.
that makes me a little hopeful that
Yeah.
I'll have a gaming buddy.
There you go.
And yeah, just watching and getting into the things that she's interested in. I feel like she's going to teach me so much, and I'm going to learn so many things too. Um, and maybe things I forgot about from when I was a kid, I'll get to kind of re-experience some of that. So I'm just excited for her to grow up and just learn more things. I also think that she is so funny already. So there's a part of me that's like, maybe she'll take after her dad and be just as hilarious as I am, so that we
Yes.
can together just drive my wife crazy.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. One of the things I did too when my kids were young, we had daddy dates. So I would take the kids out of the house in the morning, let my wife sleep in the morning after a long week, and we just go like to whatever, go to a park, go down to the beach, go grab an ice cream cone, whatever it was in the morning. We just go do something together, and it was
Yeah.
our time, and it was different for all of my kids, and it was just that moment of hey. Uh, my wife gets a break, the house is quiet, and I get my own time, just to kind of to build that bridge and build that connection with my kids. So
Yeah.
anytime I could create that time, it took a lot of effort at first to
Hmm.
do that, but I found it so rewarding and very memorable to look back on those times, because you can't do them over. You get one shot at this, right? So
Right.
now I'm, like we mentioned before, I'm an empty nester. I'm at the kind of the tail end of
Yeah.
where you're at. So I look back with fondness to your stage of being a dad, and encourage you again. Like I said, I 26, I don't think I could be so succinct and share my thoughts the way you have already. So congratulations on that, and just keep
Thank
going.
you.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just those memories are great. Thankfully, I get to spend about the first half of every day with her,
Right.
with Daisy. So that's always nice. I usually start my days with Daisy bench presses because she'll end up in our bed, and so I'll roll over and she'll wake me up because she's grabbing my face and pulling my hair, and
Yeah,
she loves being lifted in the air and everything. So I'll lay on my back and I'll just up and down. She loves it, and yeah, I think just little things like that. I hope I always remember. You know.
good. So before we go, Mike, what would you like
Yeah.
to share with new dads? Maybe there's a dad going in the hospital this week,
Hmm.
and they're going to come out of the hospital with a newborn. What would you tell them? What would you say to that Mike walking into the hospital this week?
I would say as easier said than done, but don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fun. Being a parent is the coolest experience in my life I've had, and just have fun with it, you know. And it's it can be stressful, it can be scary, especially those first few days, um, but it's gonna totally change your life in a way that you're gonna love, and you're
Yes.
not even gonna feel like it's this jarring life change, right? Maybe, but it'll just feel natural, and it's gonna be better, and you're not even gonna remember what it was like to not have this thing in your life eventually,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna be perfect.
Yeah. You get to be a dad once and forever,
Yes.
which is amazing,
Yeah.
because you're like, wow, I get to do this. Right. It's amazing. Okay. Before we go, I still got to ask the expert. Got a couple of minutes left. From your expanse knowledge of music, and I'm a musician, so I love this. I
Yes.
need, and we did this in a pre-interview, I need your top 5 songs to get the room jumping, just moving, get up off your seats. Let's go, people. Top 5 songs in no particular order that
Okay.
you would play. Yeah, there you go. So that's easier.
Yes.
In no particular, what you would play to get people from being like, man, this is a wedding, I'm bored, grandma's over there complaining. How do you get people out of the seats? Come on, let's do this. What are the
All right.
songs? 5, go.
Some good 5 ones. All right. Cupid Shuffle is a guarantee to get the dance floor packed.
Boom.
Um, Shout by the Isley Brothers is a personal favorite of mine because you got everybody hands in the air and the call back and forth. So much fun. One of my favorites to do. Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas is a pretty fun one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Playing to millennials is pretty easy for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, oh, I got these last 2 here.
Come on.
I'm gonna
Dig
say
deep.
I'm gonna say Dancing Queen by ABBA because
Yes.
when it hits,
Oh, my
hearing
wife. Yeah, my wife would be up in a second.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I hear screams and people rushing out to the floor. That one is tons of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one that always gets people going crazy. Okay, actually, I'm sorry. Can I make it a tie?
Okay, well, let's make it 6. The top
Let's
6.
make
Let's
it
go.
6.
All right, good.
Get Low, of course,
Yes.
for later in the night, and Mr. Brightside by the Killers.
Oh,
People go crazy when that song starts.
there you go. That's probably, yeah, I've heard that's like one of the most popular songs that people know.
Yeah, and I don't. It's not a particularly happy song, but
No.
people love it. And once I hit it, they go nuts.
Okay, one more bonus question then. What is Daisy's favorite song right now? Is it Baby Shark? No.
It's not Baby Shark. It might be the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse theme song. or the Bluey title song, if you're familiar with Bluey.
There you go. See? Like parents all around the world like, oh yeah, I got that one. See?
Yeah. If parents around the world listening are wanting to find a show that is pretty bearable, Bluey is like my wife and I's favorite show now. It is so good and so funny, and there's so much in there for parents. It's amazing. So if you haven't checked out,
highly recommended from Mike right here. Everybody go check out Bluey. And if you need a great DJ and you don't mind giving him a ride because sometimes his car breaks down, apparently Mike is here. He's amazing. And go check out his stuff. We'll have links. You can go watch the videos that I watched. And this guy's a great DJ. You got to go check him out. So thank you so much for sharing your dad's story today, Mike.
Of course. Thank you, Dave.
All the best to your wife and Daisy. And we're cheering you on over here. Doing a great job. Keep going.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just get back to the 9 to 5.
There you go. Right before the boss catches you. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Dad Space today. Go check us out on all of our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode, right here of Dad Space. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad. Thank you.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Well, hi there. My name is Wilbur, and I'm here to support this podcast with a commercial for a horse. You know, if you're looking to get somewhere faster than 3 miles an hour and you're tired of walking, you can get a horse, and a horse will be a great thing for you. It'll really help you. And, you can carry things and you can transport things. You can move things with a horse, and sometimes a horse is all you need, right? So, I'm selling horses here for $10 a horse. And I'd love it if you could support me, because horses are us. We are here for you. So, like I said, if you need a horse, horses are us. And we're here to support this podcast with financial support. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And like I said, I don't even know what a podcast is, because it's just like 1800. Maybe someday this will all make sense to somebody. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for supporting the podcast. You need a horse and you want to go more than 3 miles an hour, you can talk to me. And I'd love to help you. So thank you. Thank you for being part of the podcast. And like I said, reach out to us. Horses are us. And someday there'll be a thing called the internet. And people will be taking pictures of their food for some reason. And at that time, this will all make sense. Right now, to me, this makes no sense at all. And again, my name, Wilbur. And so happy to be here. And enjoy the podcast, whatever the heck that is. Buy a horse. I'm here for you. Thanks for listening. Whatever you do, don't squat with your spurs on. Thank you. And talk to you soon. Cheers.